I'm your host, Dr. Elizabeth Ssemanda, medical intuitive healer and life coach, and you're listening to Stepping into Soul Power, the podcast for people who understand that we are more than just our physical bodies. Here we explore topics like medical intuition, healing, help you identify your blocks, and give you the strategies to empower the soul in you. Friends, we got something for you. We have something. We've got something for you. Yes. We go through this life and sometimes interesting things that we don't expect happen. So sometimes you might even, survive a brush with death. And our guest today has done just that. Healer. Steven Noack is a Reiki master, 0-point energy healer, spiritual life coach. He's the beautiful thing is he's well versed in using his intuitive abilities in the healing process. And with that, I'd love to welcome you, Steven Noack, to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I would pretty much just say I'm someone who used my pain and connection with spirit to make an understanding of my journey here. You know what I mean? To learn how to discern things and move them instead of hold on to them and store them.
Oh, yes. So tell us about your journey, your story, how you came to get on this path as a healer.
Well, I'd say it must have started when I was very young, 4 years old. I'm driving a big wheel, getting ready to cross the street because my brother was on the other side of the street and he's waving me to come over. We're getting ready to go somewhere. And I go down the road in between two parked cars, and here comes a car down the street. And basically I collide with the car driving down the street, go underneath the car, lose consciousness. I remember a blur, seeing, then looking at myself. And these memories are more concrete than I can't remember what I had for lunch last Wednesday. But this memory is something that is seared in there and never fades away. So I'm looking at myself and I see my eyes roll in the back of my head. Everything fades to black and then it comes back. And the next thing I know is I'm sitting and I'm leaning on someone who I think is someone. My head is down, and when I open my eyes, I catch a glimpse of long, silver, whitish hair. It was almost luminescent. And then I see the bottom of a robe. So I turn to ask what happened, and then that's when I see this hooded figure who I'm leaning on, has no face, only light for a face. And then they told me I was in an accident. Everything's going to be all right. And then as this being is speaking, I'm looking into the face and I'm feeling pulled into the face. And I remember thinking we're talking without talking, and just looking around and being semi-aware that I'm somewhere else. And I'm being pulled in, and I see a glimpse of what I would think to be heaven, because I had no recollection at that age. There's people playing, of all ages, and there's laughter, and the laughter's coming off of them in waves, and the colors there were so much more vibrant and alive. And there was an instant knowing that there was no suffering there, that it was a pure place. And I wanted to go there, and they basically said it wasn't your time yet. And the next thing I know is I'm in a place where I can see everything around me, but it looked like a blueprint underneath everything. I could see through everything. It was almost like translucent spirit, and underneath was like a blueprint. And they started to explain to me that humanity built builds its reality through its heart using this blueprint, using this field, by the energy they create. That
Mm-hmm.
every living being has a divine blueprint or a pure image of themselves in this field. And it was very computer-like to me, and almost like a video game. Like I'm playing this character, and now I'm understanding there's energy and there's physics and mechanics behind all these realities that are happening, where so-and-so perceives one reality and another person perceives another. But they showed me myself as an energy, and they said, you're the pure energy of love as you come into this world. And I was in the center of like a wheel. And then they showed me these extensions of myself, and they explained to me human beings extend energy out, or like quantum emissions, what I came to later understand them as, because I did a lot of searching to find the answers to explain what was happening
Mm-hmm.
as a skeptic, just for myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they explained we
Mm-hmm.
extend energy to interact with reality and people and relationships. And we spread out and basically spend our sacred energy down, and that we can call all this energy back into ourselves. So it's almost like we're disconnected in a way.
Can you explain? You said spread all this energy down. Can you give people an example of like what you mean by
Well,
that?
I mean, just look at it as daily habits or addictions,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
deep patterns of thinking that overwhelm you obsessively, things like that. You got another personality aspect vibrating, another you vibrating at a different rate that's locking you into this
Yeah.
pattern, and it's in the field. And if we can learn how to, and that's what I teach my clients, go to the field, command this energy, a lot like you would input commands in a computer, to basically cleanse
Mm-hmm.
its way out using polarity, and action potential on the nervous system. If you can basically create a large enough charge and create polarity, you can exit these, what I call lower selves or lower personalities that bind us
Mm-hmm.
to everything from like mental illness. I believe is a big
Mm-hmm.
part of it. It helps rewire the brain for neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. And and it's can you tell us like it sounds like such a profound experience. Having a near death experience. Can you tell us like what your what the transition was, like a little bit more about what the transition was, like you had the experience and like now you're doing this healing work, but what was the process like that, like
For
for you?
sure. It definitely wasn't like, oh my God, instantly I had all these things and I understood them. I knew something had
Mm-hmm.
happened, but I couldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I would get like little faint glimpses of being somewhere else, but I couldn't really focus it like when you're trying to remember something. So I lived a good part of
Mm-hmm.
my life like that, and went through my share
Mm-hmm.
of darkness and the bad habits and the addictions and the things that I had to overcome by creating different energy and starting to understand and use my gifts to overcome those. So I had to walk through it
Mm-hmm.
for a while, and then that voice returned, the same voice that spoke to me when I was 4, told me everything's going to be all right. You were in an accident. Basically told me the same thing shortly after I experienced another accident, because I had another car accident where I flipped the car over quite a few times. Um,
Wow.
I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as when I was 4 and getting stuck underneath a car, and the car kept going for another 25 feet or so. But during that time, I was conscious and everything, and I was going in for a surgery. And right before the surgery, I got really anxious and I went to pull everything out of me. And I hadn't had medication yet. Like that was on its way. And I think that was the last thing before they brought me in. And I felt this energy come over me and just push away all the anxiety and basically told me to put my head down. Everything's going to be all right. And then that's when a floodgate opened, like in my head, and my energy. Like if you were ever a kid on Christmas Eve and you're overwhelmed with that energy that you can't control, it was like that instantly, times 1,000. And
Wow.
visions started, and that's when my personality changed, probably in the span of a couple of years, pretty rapidly. Like I started to pursue different things that I understood later were to sustain my energy and hold my higher frequency, as opposed to the things that I used to do. So but it was an advantage growing up pretty close to normal and then having everything return. And these beings explained to me like the evolution of humanity and ascension of consciousness, in order to survive, basically, an expansion.
Wow. Wow. And you had mentioned your personality change. Like what do you mean by what transition took
Well,
place?
at the time I was a GameStop store manager, and I just happened upon, like, I was starting to hear people's thoughts. I was starting to feel their feelings, and I would make games out of them at work where I would ask a question in my mind and then ask it out loud to see if it matched. And most of the time it did. And just strange things would happen. And wait, what was the question again? Go back. I lost.
Well, you had mentioned your
Oh,
personality
okay.
changed.
So it was like I was being overtaken by all these things that were floating around in the field, because we only perceive 3% of the visible light spectrum with our eyes, right? And there was so much more out there, and I was instantly awakened to it. So I was pretty overwhelmed for a while, and then I had to learn how to process that. And then I basically had to leave my job because it became so overwhelming. That's when I started to work with seniors who have dementia and Alzheimer's. And I stopped doing everything I did, like didn't play video games anymore. I started connecting to nature, going on hikes by myself, talking about quantum physics that I never studied, but suddenly was popping in my head. My family got so nervous, they wanted me to see a shrink at one time. And this was in the beginning, probably like 10 years ago. So it was a rapid change to the point where my ex said, your daughter just wants her father back. And it was so rapid. It was like this energy had just landed in me and started to burn away everything that was false. And I really craved purity and God. And I knew it was coming from God, but I couldn't define in my mind what God was. And I came to understand it as a feeling, a charge of energy. And if I pursue that charge and that feeling, then I would wind up in the right space, no matter who aligned there with me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean it definitely sounds like an awakening process, and like that can be it can be tough, like especially in our society, to go through that. People may not be as understanding. And it sounds like you've gravitated towards some very interesting modes of healing. Can you tell us about like why Reiki, why 0 point energy, and like what was your what sparked your inclination to move in that path?
Well, I was going to a chiropractor who happened to be a Reiki master at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when all these psychic things, is lack of a better word, because I don't like to use the word psychic, because I think we're just beings of energy
Mm-hmm.
and we have that discernment available to us, with our
Mm-hmm.
mind heart coherence. But I was going to a chiropractor, and she happened to study, she happened to be a Reiki master, so I asked her if she could train me. And I studied with her to kind of help find answers as to what was happening, because there was like changes happening in people that were around me. I had a woman fall down outside my store, and she fell in the cement, and she was hurting pretty good. And she was elderly, and
Mm-hmm.
I put my hand on her, and she looked at me and she said, "I'm all warm and I don't feel any pain." And I remember going back to work and thinking about it, and how weird it was, and just putting the pieces of everything together. Um, so I think I got off track there a little bit. Did I?
Oh no, well you're talking about, I asked you about how you got
Oh, okay.
into,
So that led me,
or
yeah, that led me to study
what was,
Reiki. And eventually it grew from there through studies and self
yes.
purification, um, of basically any lower energy. I started to perceive any density, um, as separate from me, and really dedicate myself
Mm-hmm.
to containing and holding enough charge to transmute it or purify it. So I did that for a long time and spent a lot of time doing that, long enough to
Mm-hmm.
figure out through various sources and confirmations that I was achieving 0 point, which is basically bringing an energetic system into a ground state, its maximum ground state,
Mm-hmm.
which actually releases, and it brings you to an unattached, um, feeling, but also releases any attachments you have to trauma and things like that, because those are lower frequencies. So you generate a high enough
Yes.
frequency, a high enough charge, those other charges have to release in this quantum mechanics.
Wow. Are there things that, because that could be really powerful to people to be able, we and I'll say this as a psychiatrist, there are a lot of people that struggle with trauma and addiction, and and being able to get to such a state would be like revolutionary for a lot of people. Like, are there things that people at home can do on their own to empower
I would
themselves?
say for sure, first and foremost, start speaking to any lower energy or density, because that's where everything comes from. It comes from lower energy. The real part of us is love as an energy having a human
Mm,
experience. So we need to separate identifying with any type of disease, any type of emotion that's overtaking us, because we're the one feeling the emotion. We're the one having the ailment, but we're not the ailment or the emotion itself. So I would say, when you wake up early in the morning, set a neurological imprint
mm,
to run on. I, today, I'm going to become love as an energy. I'm going to identify that. I don't need anyone's approval to be myself, to be authentic, have an
mm,
expression, have a thought, but also being mindful and being aware of what you're creating, as you would like a computer when you go to the store and you buy a
mm,
laptop. Or you want to be mindful of all the things you load on it, because that loaded up junk that you're not going to use for a while, such as memories that you don't need anymore of trauma, are going to accumulate and slow down
mm,
your computer. So you want to kind of command
mm,
yourself to cleanse, take time to meditate and do breath work at least once
mm,
every couple days, because as you're breathing, the energy that's naturally in the air in nature is now entering you and it's expanding. One of the things I do is, I was shown during my NDE what's called the Trinity circuit, is I connect 3 points of
mm,
energy, and this creates a field or a higher self, because we all have a higher self and a lower self. One of them is made out of
mm,
emotions that breed competition, separation, suffering, And the other self is made out of peace, unity, compassion, oneness. So what I do is I ask the Holy Spirit to enter my consciousness from above, which comes down through my crown. I ask the Christ or love to expand within me, because it's what I'm already made out of. And then I ask God or source to surround me. And this creates a field. And now I can also program myself. I'm love as an energy. That is my identity. This frees me from labels and the need for approval and all those things. I'm a sovereign being, because a lot of things in this world are kind of after our emotions to accomplish their goal.
Can you explain that statement? A lot of things are after our
That's
emotions
the real goal. I mean,
to
let's
accomplish
look at
their...
politicians. They couldn't exist without the need of without human emotions, right? Unless we gave them emotions, they could not exist. Same thing for advertising and marketing. You're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too this, you're too that. Oh, I'm accepted. Oh, I'm not accepted. And it's all an emotional need to fill something that we have the key to fill by engaging the quantum field and claiming basically what I call the divine blueprint. You know, every morning I say I claim my divine blueprint and my 0-point energy. And your 0-point energy is energy that's in between the electromagnetic waves that was once thought to be vacuum space, but now they're just finding out it contains a massive amount of potential. So I claim my divine blueprint, I claim my 0-point energy, and you set the charge in your body for that day. And that higher charge, you know, kind of runs the show as opposed to the lower one. You're not going to be as triggered. You're not going to be as needful of other people to approve you to be you. Things like that. And you're going to heal, more importantly.
Wow. Lots of gold nuggets. Lots of
It comes down to
gold
basically
nuggets.
using your word to create the energy and connect, and your intention, and knowing something is finished.
Manifesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Manifesting. Knowing it's already done as you're asking for it. I know it's already done. I'm just allowing it to come in now.
I know it's
Just
already
like the same
done.
feeling, like if I ask the listeners if they know how to ride a bike, most people will be like, yeah. Do you know how to tie your shoe? Yeah. Well, it's the same feeling. Know whatever you're asking for is already done. I know this pain is already left. I know it's leaving. And do that until you feel that knowing. And you can work with that to command a lot of things, to clear the nervous system, the subconscious, whether they're patterns from bad relationships or patterns from any kind of trauma, really. It's energy that gets stored and never really gets expressed. And that storage becomes full.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And for you, as you're moving forward in your path of, working with others to heal, what's your vision? Like, what would you like to see going forward?
For me, you mean, or the world?
I like both. I like
Okay.
For you and the world. Let's do that.
I would say for the world, for people to discover that they're all a fragment of God, and they're just here having an experience in these bodies, and they got a little amnesia, and for them to just come together and understand the differences are what makes life worth living. If we were all the same, it'd be boring, you know?
Yeah.
As far as for them to come together in unity, in one spirit, one frequency, one energy. And for me, I would say, I know one day I will have some type of spiritual center. Right now, I'm pretty booked up until like February, which is great. The last time I spoke, it was received really well. So I'm thankful for that. And I just want I want a spiritual center where people can come and they can heal no matter what gender, race, religion, no matter what they are, they can all heal with one energy and understand that as a feeling is God, you know, and you can feel God. It's a part of you. So I would love to have a center where people can come and heal. And also, like, seniors can come one day, kids can come one day, and there can be nature activities.
Yes.
And we can have people come in and teach them about wild edible plants and things like that.
I love that vision. I love that vision because I think there's a huge need right now for healing. And then also, I love that you're incorporating nature. Like we
Mm-hmm.
are nature, we are nature, just remembering to have that and not segregating based on age. Like, yes, let's have the seniors, let's have the kiddos, let's have the
And
adults, like,
that's the theory
together.
for the 0 point field is we're all connected in that neutral space when we're unattached.
Yeah.
When we release all attachment, we're all connected.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Are there any underrated tools that you feel are indispensable for your
I would
healing
say
work?
breath work. I would say that's probably
Mm,
underrated and overlooked. But for me, it's about bringing a charge from above, uh, from the sun,
yes.
and breathing in the charge from below, from Mother Earth, and having them meet. And for me, it just feels natural, and I do everything by feeling. Um,
Yes.
so I would say breath work and
Could you
asking that breath to expand within you is obviously going to allow you to expand, be in a more peaceful state, release things because you're trying to create a certain charge to release these other charges, and that's
Yeah,
what you're dealing with.
I love that you're trying to create a certain charge to
Mm-hmm.
release other charges. For people who are unfamiliar with breath work, could you give us like a sample of like what it
Sure.
might be
For
or
me,
what
it
what it
just
might
looks
look
like
like?
some easy, not too deep, not too shallow breathing in through your nose
Hmm.
and then out of your mouth, and doing that for about 30 seconds. And something you may also want to add to it is memory. You can add a memory or visualize a moment where you felt pure peace or pure love or pure bliss.
Hmm.
You know, some moment, an experience, preferably, not a person, and breathe that in.
Hmm.
And you can basically use this to connect to certain feelings in the field.
It's
So you
beautiful.
want to practice that with like
That,
different
that,
versions of yourself, different timelines. I use it with my inner child. You know, I ask my inner child to become present.
mhm.
I breathe it in. I ask my inner child to show me certain feelings I want to feel. And it basically re-enlightens the nervous system.
Mm. I love that. There's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
breath is
Yep.
life. and so, and so, use that to your advantage. Use it to your advantage. And for people who are interested in learning about breath work or um, quantum healing or energy healing, like are there any resources that you've loved and you'd like to recommend to the audience?
I would say if you want to get a good idea, there's a great documentary on YouTube called The Living Matrix, and it covers a lot of
Mm,
science behind quantum healing. But just search the term quantum healing. Um, Also, of course, they can contact me, but there's a lot of quantum healers. what you want to look for is kind of the time they put into themselves, because that's kind of like the channel. They're basically a channel. We're all channels, but it's how much we can allow to flow through us. So different references is just research. That's what I did for the longest time, was research different quantum physics, trying to explain what was happening.
Mm-hmm. I actually really love that tip that you use. And I feel like when you said look into the time that they put into themselves, like any practitioner, I feel like that goes for any
Mm-hmm.
practitioner. Like just, are they taking care of
Yeah, pretty
themselves?
much.
Like, are they doing the work? Because if they're not, then
Yeah, if they're not doing their self-cleansing, then you're sharing basically part of their lower self with them. I think it's
mm,
I don't want to say, I'd say it's more noble or honorable to enter that space clean, to understand that's a responsibility, that
yeah,
you're sharing a sacred space with somebody.
yeah, yeah. Oh, beautiful. And so if people, um, want to connect with you, can you tell them a little bit about like the various things that you
Sure, I do different
offer?
ranges of sessions, starting at like an hour to an
Mm-hmm.
hour and a half to 45 minutes coaching.
Mm-hmm.
The prices are all on my site. They're very
Mm-hmm.
reasonable compared to like some of the prices I've heard of coaches or whatnot. Um, like
Mm-hmm.
100, $150 at the most. And there's less than that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, basically, I do Zoom sessions, I do in person if the person's local.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, still building the spiritual center, still trying to keep ideas in mind for that, because I want a nice piece of land.
Yes.
People can reach me through trinityquantumhealth.com or trinityhealingreiki
Yes.
at gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. That's beautiful, and I'm sure you will be well. Um, I love your story.
It's
It's
pretty
incredibly
wild because I
inspirational. And
built it
then,
from the ground up. Not really, I don't have any business sense. I didn't have any this kind of sense or that kind of sense. I was kind of like thrown into it. And then it was happening, and it was like
mm,
slowly I had to stop resisting it, and I had to accept it and kind of step into it more. And then it just grew. And I
yes,
like letting people feel the feeling that I felt with redemption and love and worthiness, because I lived a pretty normal life
yes,
up until it changed again. And I felt unworthy myself.
mm,
And letting people go into that space, connecting them, helping them connect to themselves, gives them that worthiness and that redemption that I was able to feel. That's what it's about.
oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, geez. So, super excited to see what is coming, and we're gonna put that out there in the universe. Spiritual Center. We need, we need it.
Oh, yeah,
We
for
need
sure.
it. So we gonna put that in. Yeah, we're gonna put that. You're leading it. So put it out in the center, out there in the universe. And we just like to thank you for being a guest, and thank you for the work that you
Yeah, I
do,
appreciate being here. Thank you for the
helping people.
space to speak.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And looking forward to seeing how your path progresses, and the great change that you're going to make
Thank
in
you
this
very
world.
much.
Such a powerful guest interview. And with that, it's time for our next segment, time for our soul power statement for the week. And yes, friends, our our soul power statement of the week is: what if I embrace the divine nature in me? I think of the famous Marianne Williamson, who said that we are glorious because we are not beings of this world at all. Our spiritual essence is non material, non physical. And when we become aware of this, we are genuinely empowered. So, friends, playing small does not serve the world. Remember who you are. Remember you are divine and you were meant to shine. And friends, we've come to the end of our time. We love hearing from you. Absolutely love love hearing from you. So please comment below, subscribe to our podcast, write a review, let us know how we're doing. And if you're interested in an intuitive reading, healing, coaching, send us a message at soulinyou.com. And finally, if no one has told you this today, I will. Thank you for being authentically you. The soul in me honors the soul in you. Disclaimer: this podcast is for spiritual and or entertainment purposes and is not a substitute for medical diagnosis, healthcare treatment, or professional advice. Each person is so unique, so please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.